Welcome you on behalf of WTC, IUCCI, and of course the Embassy of Ukraine in the Republic of India, celebrating Ukraine's independence together. May I request Mr. President from Indo-Ukrainian Chamber, please come. May I request the dignitaries to kindly come and grace the dais, please. First, I would like to invite the ambassador of Ukraine. Sir, if you can kindly come and grace the dais, along with Mr. Pradeep Agarwal, the president of World Trade Connect, WTC. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. The newly appointed ambassador of Ukraine, along with the president of WTC. I would request Mr. Army, the president of IUCCI, please come, sir, on the dais. And of course, the moderator of today, a very good friend of mine, Rudra from Times of India. Rudra, if you can kindly join us on the dais. My request to each one of you to clap so that the clap should go till Kyiv. Yes. A big round of applause, yes. Yeah. Well, the introduction of the program and everything that would be done by my friend Rudra. I would request the dignitaries on the dais, and I have been told by the president of IUCCI that the ambassadors of different countries, those who are here, may I request each one of you, along with the dais, to kindly light the lamp, please. May I request you, Honorable Ambassador, please come. Along with Mr. Pradeep Agarwal, Mr. Army, and along with my moderator and the ambassadors of countries, respective countries, I should say, those who are here. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That's the job when we start a new thing. Yeah, please come. Yeah, we are having. May I request the organizer for this candle? Tanya, if you have the candle and this, yeah, please. Please give the candle. Yeah, no, she will give. Thank you very much, ma'am. And the candle also, yeah. Over there. You can light over there itself. Yeah. Tanya, if you can kindly help, please. That's the tradition in India that whenever we start new proceedings, we start with the new, with the lighting of lamp. And this is for prosperity, progress, and harmony. Yeah. Yeah, please give it to the Honorable Ambassador and the dignitaries. Yeah. A big round of applause. The lighting of the lamp shows that we are the peace-loving people and we want progress, harmony, and we want peace all across the world. Yeah. Thank you very much. Kindly. Yeah. Kindly take your seat. Yeah, we will have a picture. Yeah. Thank you very much. Dignitaries, kindly be seated, please. And as we are here to celebrate the Ukrainian independence together, may I request everybody to kindly raise. We will have first the Ukrainian anthem.
України, ні слава, ні воля, ще нам, браття українці, усміхнеться доля. Згинуть
гаснуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці. Запануєм і ми, браття, у своїй стороні. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду.
Thank you. Slava Ukraine. Now kindly raise. Now we will have India national anthem. जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे सब जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे. Thank you. Kindly be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all are aware that today we are celebrating the Ukraine National Independence Day, I wish to connect and greet all my friends, those who have joined in Kyiv, especially in all the other city of Ukraine. I must share it with you. The program is also through YouTube channel, kind courtesy, the president of IUCCI. It is going directly to Ukraine, Romania, Poland, and also to some of my friends in United Kingdom. So a big round of applause for all my people, those who are seeing this program over there. And of course, to the people, those who are sitting over here, they have come. We are very thankful to you. But before I hand over to my friend Rudra, I must give a brief profile of, please come in the front, madam. A brief profile of my friend Rudra. Rudra, it is, just give me a sec, it is there in my mobile. It's my proud privilege to read your profile. My friend Rudra Nil Ghosh, he is with BA Honours degree in History, a postgraduate diploma in Journalism, and a master's degree in International Relations. He is currently working for the editorial page of the Times of India, India's largest English daily, as a senior assistant editor. His job profile includes analysis, the day's hot button political, social, and foreign affairs issues to produce editorials that are read by millions in India and abroad. His core subject is international relations. Ladies and gentlemen, since his core subject is international relations, that's why he's here, basically, not only to moderate the session, but also there are a number of media channels, people, those who are here. We will be communicating it to all the channels that we are looking for progress, harmony, and peace in this entire world. Let me also introduce you to Mr. Pradeep Agarwal, the president of World Trade Connect, WTC. He is also the manufacturing of Coca-Cola over here in India, and a great person and a very senior industrialist. Along with him, the Honorable Ambassador is here, a newly appointed Ambassador of Ukraine, and along with that, Mr. President of Indo-Ukrainian Chamber, Mr. Army. So may I request moderator of the day, Mr. Rudra, the proceedings, you will take care of it. All yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yogesh ji. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here today. My esteemed panelists, esteemed guests, good evening. I believe that we are gathered here today on a very opportune moment because very soon India will host the G20 Leaders Summit, and that is a very big event for us. It will announce India's big coming out party at the global international stage. As a country that aspires to be a big player in the international arena, there will be challenges and opportunities. And speaking of opportunities, one thing where we have neglected in our foreign policy history is the post Soviet space, non Russian post Soviet space. Basically, which means that all the countries apart from Russia that came out or who succeeded the Soviet Union, we haven't paid much attention to them. This is partly because of maybe our baggage of history, partly oversight, but it is a big opportunity that we have missed over the last few decades. However, thankfully, now under the leadership of the current government, we are paying attention to this non Russian post Soviet space. And Ukraine, of course, is a big part of that. Now, in fact, the post Soviet space today is a vibrant space which calls for greater synergy, cooperation, and mutual development. The war in Ukraine today is a sad reality, and it has caused immense hardship all across the world. It has caused huge disruption to the global economy, to trade, to business, massive food, fuel, and fertilizer shortages. So it is a huge tragedy that has been brought on the world. And also not to forget that the war in Ukraine has wrought huge human and ecological costs. In fact, just to give you an example, in June, the Kharkovka dam in Ukraine was blown up, and that has completely destroyed the irrigation system in southern Ukraine. Now, we are talking about Ukraine, which was the breadbasket of Europe and one of the largest exporters of wheat in the world. Now, to lose that dam and to have millions of hectares of land inundated is a huge blow not only to Ukraine and Europe but the entire world. In fact, after this we'll have two short clips about the ecological damage that Ukraine has suffered during this war. And thirdly, I would like to highlight the fact that there is a huge, I would say, amnesia about the people-to-people relations between India and Ukraine. Actually, some of the panelists here today who will be joining us from Ukraine will be talking more about this. That actually over the decades, there has been a lot of people-to-people connect between the two sides, but we have just simply forgotten those. And it is time to revive those connections again. In fact, interestingly, during the era of the Soviet Union, in relations between India and the Soviet Union, much of those ties were actually between India and what is today Ukraine, especially in heavy industries, in metallurgy, and so forth. So it is, I think, a good time to revive those linkages once again. And lastly, like our Prime Minister said, that this is not the era of war. This is the era of development and mutual cooperation. And here I believe that India should invest in Ukraine. India helps itself by helping Ukraine, especially in areas like IT, reconstruction of Ukrainian infrastructure, and even in the startup space. So in that context, I believe that investment in Ukraine today is an investment in global peace. Now, having laid out the context, let me just quickly go through the structure of the program today. First, we'll have the two short movies that I mentioned. After that, I will call upon my panelists one by one to make their opening remarks. And then, if time permits, after each speaker, we will have a small Q&A, maybe 1 or 2 questions. And after all the speakers have spoken, we'll then have a general Q&A session where anyone from the audience can ask a question. So with that, I would like to cue the 2 short films on Ukraine. Please, Vladimir, if those can be played now.
Rudra, before we start, my mistake. Can I request both the presidents to kindly greet the Honorable Ambassador of Ukraine with a bouquet of flowers?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
May I request you, Pradeepji and Arvi, to please present it to. Yeah. Rudra, if you can also join. Yeah. Please. Now we will start with the movies.
All life on the earth begins from a single blade of grass, from a single blossom, from a single droplet. Time and time again, nature proves to be more complicated than our understanding of it. And the infinite surprises nature offers through exploration make its study even more fascinating and captivating. Nature operates gradually in everything, and everything is a result of one universal creative effort. There is nothing dead in nature. Everything is natural and alive, making the entire world a single living organism. Nature is a book written in the language of mathematics, as Galileo Galilei said. But the mathematics of the nature of Ukraine speaks for itself. Today, the Russian Federation is destroying our nature, kills all alive. They don't think about the catastrophic consequences for our nature. They don't think that we are children of the same ship called Earth. And there is no transfer from it. Because of Russia, Ukraine is losing its natural resources. Because of Russia, the whole world is losing its natural resources. Yes, we will definitely restore and rebuild everything. We must protect the environment today to save life in future. We are all children of one ship called Earth, and there is nowhere else to transfer to from this ship. To protect nature means to protect our homeland and the world.
Kafka Hydroelectric Power Plant, the last power plant in the Dnipro Cascade. On the first day of the full-scale war, the Russian troops seized it and mined it. On June 6, 2023, the Russians carried out a terrorist attack and blew up the dam. 11 out of 28 spans of the dam were destroyed, leaving it beyond repair. one of the 6 largest reservoirs in Ukraine, the Kakhovka Reservoir, ceased to exist. Water flooded 80 sites located downstream of the Dnipro. The total area of flooding reached 600 square kilometers, an area almost equal to the size of Kiev or Berlin. It is 3 times larger than the area of Washington, D.C., or 5 times larger than the area of Paris. 5 regions of Ukraine, 180 settlements, and almost 1 million people found themselves in the emergency zone. The Ministry of Internal Affairs has begun to eliminate the consequences of the blowup. Almost 4,000 people, 309 children, and hundreds of pets were evacuated. The Russians shelled evacuation points. Some of the victims included rescuers and police officers. After the blowup, the situation upstream of the dam has become critical. This is a picture of the area where water used to be. Villages that were once flooded are emerging from the sand, and ammunition, both new and from the Second World War, is becoming visible. Almost 700,000 Ukrainians have been left without permanent access to drinking water. Police and rescuers deliver drinking water every day. The amount of direct losses is $2 billion. Ukraine expresses its gratitude to the partner countries for their logistical assistance in eliminating the consequences of the plant's blowup. The equipment received by Ukraine, in particular for the EU Civil Protection Mechanism, allowed us to evacuate people, pump out water from flooded houses, provide people with drinking water and electricity, and eliminate the consequences of the Russian missile strikes. Ukraine is grateful for the support and calls on the world to stop Russian terror.
Right. Thank you so much, Vladimir. So, with that, let's move on with the program. I would now like to call upon Mr. Pradeep Agarwal, President of WTC Business and Industry Association, to make his opening remarks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Ambassador of Ukraine in India, diplomats fraternity from respective countries, President Indo-Ukraine Chamber, friends from media, and WTC core team members. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to celebrate the National Day of Ukraine. It is not just a coincidence that India and Ukraine share the month of August of the National Day, 15th August and 24th August respectively. Both the nations are the torch bearers of progress. And today, we gather to reflect upon the significance of peace and harmony in Ukraine, as well as the pivotal role that the Business Chamber plays in fostering these ideals. The pursuit of peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but the cultivation of understanding, cooperation, and unity among diverse communities. Before I move further, let me share you about WTC Business and Industry Association, which is World Trade Connect, and work as a catalyst to not only to connect trade, but also all stakeholders who are responsible for smooth trade between business and countries. Ukraine's journey towards stability and tranquility has been marked by challenges, but also by resilience and determination. It is essential that businesses and integral components of society take an active role in promoting peace by encouraging economic growth, providing employment opportunities, and supporting social initiatives. The Business Chamber contributes to the foundation of stable and harmonious society. Collaboration between the governments, civil society, and businesses can create a sustainable framework for peace. In conclusion, let us recognize that peace and harmony are not abstract concepts. They are cornerstones upon which prosperous societies are built. As we move forward, let us remember the crucial role of Business Chamber, especially WTC, which is World Trade Connect, and its role in shaping a better future for Ukraine, India, and for entire progressive and peaceful countries. Also, our Honorable and respected Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji has said, "One earth, one future, and one family. Entire globe is one family." I wish all the participants good luck, and also to all friends who have joined virtually. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Mr. Now I would like to call upon the new ambassador of Ukraine in India, Dr. Alexander Polishchuk, who recently, only this week, in fact, presented his credentials to the Honorable President. Dr. Polishik.
Thank you. Yeah. Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen, honorable ambassadors, excellencies, president. It's a great honor for me to be a speaker today. I'm just, as you know, recently arrived in India, and I've been heartily touched with the so welcome words which I receive, flowers, and yeah, definitely it's. I never been in India before, and I should say you that well, it's even better than my my expectation before. So I personally hope that we will have a very friendly and very open discussion here. Thank you that you join us and made a preference not to go in a restaurant or to the cinema, but to spend this evening with us. And I would like to bring your attention to the motto of our event today. It's motivation and motivation and optimism. Yeah, thank you. First of all, I would like to say you that I'm very much motivated person because it's not like me. It's not only me. It's for the all of Ukrainian nation who now bravely fighting for our independence and for our freedom. I'm personally inspired, and my motivation based on a bravery of our soldiers who actually sacrifice their lives, especially for that Ukraine will be continue as an independent country and free country. And such courage of Ukrainian soldiers, it's definitely one of the motivating point for me. And it's their bravery as well give it to me optimism, because I'm quite sure that we will definitely win in this war. My optimism as well based on support which we are given, which we are receiving from our partners, which is and as well from India, and especially in the humanitarian aid which we receiving in Ukraine and helping our civilian population first of all, because they're suffering. Last winter was very hard for us because it was Russian attack on a critical infrastructure caused a lot of problem for the civilian population, and they're looking how to recover now. And India provided to us a great support in especially this domain. Victory is not just a liberating of our territory and within the borders of 1991. It's as well means for us that we will have such capacity which will never allow for anybody to look even unfriendly to our borders. Today, as you know, 1st of September, in our country, it's the first day when people going to the school. Unfortunately, only 1/3 of them will be offline presence in schools because a threat of Russian missile attack is so high, and we actually looking how to provide necessary equipment for the teachers, for the students, for the schoolers who actually even right now using online educational program. I've been witnesses of bravery of our teachers, by the way, and it's as well motivated me personally that they continue provided education for the younger generation, providing a lecture to the university, sometimes sitting in a basement or even in the trenches in the front line. bravery of Ukrainian nation as well. It's motivate our partner to provide us proper means for the such educational programs which we run now in Ukraine. And I would like to kindly invite you to participate in such initiatives. For example, for the through the program which run by our First Lady, Elena Zelenska Foundation. She actually tried to help for the educational process in Ukraine. We are fully optimistic that we will have continue even in such circumstances conducting all of educational program in Ukraine. For this purpose, the government shifted part of educational facilities into safer areas in the western part of Ukraine. These steps create a motivation for the Indian students to continue their studies in our country. Ukrainian business feel motivated as well, and they continue to contribute to our victory by paying the taxes, so the social system continue to work. We feel motivated, as in close cooperation with our partners, we were able to develop proper capability for Ukrainian armed forces using modern technologies and equipment. We feel optimistic because it's a Ukrainian weapon which actually hit a Russian warship, flag warship of Black Sea Fleet, Moscow, using a Ukrainian technology. That is why this example should motivate our Indian colleagues and military industry manufactured in a cooperation with Ukraine, a new capability for Indian armed forces. We are sure that this motivated us, that the peace formula presented by President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, already got support from 62 countries in the world, and this number is growing. We feel motivated as India already confirmed its participation in implementation of 2 chapters of peace formula of President Zelensky, namely ecological safety and humanitarian demining, and it's supporting in general the provision of food security. We feel optimistic that India will also become a part of other chapters of peace formula, such as territorial integrity and sovereignty, as well as nuclear security. This point have a global effect, and India participation is a strong signal and motivation for other countries of global south. We motivate India participate in the post-war reconstruction of Ukraine. This includes not only humanitarian component, but also business to business, which is mutually beneficial. Taking this opportunity, I would like to congratulate India with a successful moon mission. And we also look with an optimism to the start of India's solar atmosphere observation mission Aditya L1, which is scheduled for tomorrow, by the way. In this end, my remarks, I would like to emphasize that we project not only ourselves, but we as well fully encourage to build up or to participate in for the building up a new security order in the world, because we are looking for the new architecture of security in Europe, and as well we feel that India will play a great role for the building up a new security formula for the Indo-Pacific region. Those who seek security and rules are interested in the victory of Ukraine by default. That is why we are openly supported by more than 50 countries, and we have a total advantage in the term of votes in the UN. I'd like to express my gratitude to the Dr. Yogesh Srivastava, Director General of VTC Business and Industry Association, Mr. Admir Singh Chana, President to the India-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, for the support and contribution in establishing business-to-business contact between our countries and future promotion of Ukraine and India bilateral trade. So thank you so much. I hope that it was not tight, my speech. Thank you so much, and thank you for your again for your very warm welcome to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ambassador. And we all hope that peace is achieved in Ukraine soon, and all the things that are necessary to achieve peace materialize soon. Right. So, with that, let us move on to our other panelists who will be joining us from Ukraine. So, first up, we have Mr. Swatoslav Urash. Mr. Urash, are you there with us? Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Urash, and welcome to the program.
Good evening. I apologize. I have some technical issues with my camera. First, I thank you very much for the perspective on the Ukraine story, because we have much to say in the context of optimism and the context of hope. As our country has battled against the odds, not just now in the conflict that sadly all the world knows about, but in the context of history. Ukraine has had many very difficult and challenging centuries, battling against different kinds of empires, different kinds of imperial designs on our territory. And we have managed to persevere through it all, safeguarding both our independence and safeguarding our nation. In the context of the grand story of each and every person around us, there's plenty to say, plenty to tell. But if I can, I want to share my story, because my story is tied directly to the story of India. When I was a student studying, I managed to learn about the opportunity to go and discover more of India. And I went as a student to Kolkata to study there, and had a chance to see our nation of so many possibilities and so many colors and so many cultures, so many languages is developing itself against all odds, and showing the world that it shall be one leading country for the 21st century. And exactly because of the inspiration, exactly because of the ideas, because of the examples that I've learned as a student studying in Kolkata, I've had a chance to choose to go to join my revolution happening in Ukraine in 2014. And in 2014, I had a chance to go there with the experience of working with many different international institutions, journalists, and a chance to join in the revolution and lead the work of National Secretariat of the revolution of the Maidan, which in context of which I had a chance to help the revolutionary efforts in the context of developing the voice of our country to tell the world exactly about what was going on in our nation. In that, the experience and education in India was fundamental. From that point onwards, I had a chance to partake in in various different organizations, various different efforts, leading me eventually to join Mr. Zelensky and join his presidential efforts that have provided me a chance to join the parliament. And in the parliament, one of the very clear and immediate things that was very obvious is the need in our parliament to create a group of friendship with India. And dozens of members of parliament of Ukraine from various different factions, various different political groupings joined in to be a part of the group, showcasing them in our parliament. There is no difference in terms of factions or political parties as far as the relationship with India is concerned. So,
right, Mr. Urash, if I can interrupt you one second, since as you mentioned, yeah. So as you mentioned that you are a member of the Committee on Foreign Policy and Interparliamentary Cooperation. So can I ask you, how can we further enhance interparliamentary cooperation between India and Ukraine? Because the Ukrainian Parliament has formed, the Interparliamentary Cooperation Committee, but you haven't had a reciprocal, action from the Indian side. So how can we enhance interparliamentary cooperation going forward?
Well, first, it's not as if it's impossible to create friendship groups in the parliament. You have a stricter procedure in terms of forming the friendship groups in the Indian parliament. And I would very much emphasize, as I did when I was in Delhi for the Raisina program, I'm the beneficiary of the Raisina program that India so exemplary leads every single year for different people all around the world. And in terms of creation of such a grouping in the Indian parliament, to be our direct counterparts would be invaluable. As an example, that India is as interested as us in the relationship between our two countries. So the point for us is that creation of such a grouping is not impossible, and very much encourage all the people sitting here now to join in with our efforts to try to convince Indian Parliament to have such a grouping start. The lack of such a grouping in the Parliament right now does not preclude us from engaging with Indian institutions. So we try to develop as many times as possible. And I very much thank His Excellency, the Ambassador there. They can tell you much more about Ukrainian efforts to develop the interlinkages between Ukraine and India, which are split. And thanks to panels such as this one, we'll have many more to count on in the future.
Right, Mr. Yuraj. I would also like to ask you here that India has supplied humanitarian assistance to Ukraine in the course of the war since last year. So what are the other kinds of support that Ukraine looks forward to from India?
Well, first, we are very thankful that at different forums, such as the meeting between the President of Russia and Prime Minister of India, it was very clearly stated that India does not see this century a century in which national problems or conflicts can be resolved by war. Not to mention the constant refrain by Indian government about the impermissibility of the use of nuclear weapons in this war, as well as in other contexts. As far as the engagement that India had, there is obviously much to be discussed, and the humanitarian support that you provided still has been quite a valuable contribution. But there are many more problems and tragedies that occur when you try to destroy, as Russia does, the biggest nation in Europe. And so the humanitarian request and demand is quite immense from whichever angle you take a look at that story. I tried to relay different requests to your embassy, and your embassy presented me many examples where it has tried to provide help with different avenues, from education with help to reconstruction, from the reconstruction for the School of Oriental Languages in Kiev, to other more individual tragedies and stories where your country has been quite a key actor. But I also, when I was in Delhi, I was trying to relay the message that basically, as far as reconstruction of Ukraine, already the pledges for the reconstruction of Ukraine are numerous, and the money that from different countries around the world that can contribute to that is quite an impressive sum. And as far as the reconstruction, I don't see why we shouldn't talk about engaging Indian companies which are building a new India every 5 years, with all the construction and building that's happening in India itself in that process. So it's not just the question of the support, humanitarian support, aid that we're discussing, but also engagement with the reconstruction efforts that will be plentiful happening after the war.
Right, Mr. Yuraj. Finally, I would ask you, since you were in India earlier, what is your perspective of Indians and their view on the war. And I would like you to make your concluding remarks here.
Well, when I was in India, it's very clear that the fact that the Russian behemoth wasn't able to swallow Ukraine has obviously opened the eyes of many Indians to the fact that Ukraine is a nation, to that Ukraine is a country that is certainly willing to step up and defend what it believes to be a fundamental idea of its own sovereignty and its own future. One of the very fundamental points that what we are fighting for in Ukraine is the right of Ukrainians to choose the future for Ukraine. It's a very imperialistic concept that Russia is trying to provide for here, to try to define our destiny for us, to try to dictate the destiny with weapons. But instead, what we are doing is we are defending the idea of our nation, the idea of our future, and to also to present to the whole world and to develop with India that our nation sees itself as a nation that should see and present our future for ourselves, and do not allow any other old empire to define the future for us.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Yuresh. Thank you for joining our program here today, and thank you for your valuable insights.
I apologize for difficulties with technical means. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you.
Bye.
So now, I think we can move on to the next panelist, who will be again joining us from Ukraine. Ms. Yulia Klemenko, who is a member of Parliament and the first Deputy Head of Transport and Infrastructure Committee. Ms. Klemenko, can you hear us?
Yes, I am hearing you well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good. We can hear you clearly. Good evening and welcome to the program.
Okay.
And if I may, ask you a lead question. So there is a lot of talk about the infrastructure damage in Ukraine, and the role that the possible role that Indian companies can play in rebuilding Ukrainian infrastructure. So can you give us kind of an overview of the scale of damage firstly, and the effort that needs to be mounted to rebuild Ukraine again?
Yes. Hello. Good evening. And first of all, I would like to thank and we are grateful to all Indian people who are actually providing us with a humanitarian aid and support and a good word for already 1.5 years. And that's why, first of all, it's thank you for that. All Ukrainians know about it, and we are happy that we have so many friends in India as well. Coming back to our reconstruction and what we need, actually, the situation is the following. So we have at this point of time approximately 23% of the railways damaged. We have approximately 7,000 kilometers of roads damaged. We have a lot of bridges and damaged. And also infrastructure is not only about roads, railways, and airports, which is also damaged approximately 30 to 40%, because we need to assess it after we do the occupation of the territories. But it's also about educational system, about schools, 2,000 schools, Ukrainian schools damaged by Russians, and a lot of other important social infrastructure damaged, because what Russians doing, they cannot fight with our army, because our army proceeding and getting our territories back, but they are fighting with civilians. They're killing civilians, they're killing kids. Today is the 1st of September, school day for Ukrainian kids, and more than 1,000 kids actually are the victims of these unjustified war. So many more kids are injured. Many more kids will have psychological effect later on. So we are talking not only about the infrastructure, physical infrastructure on land or in the air, but we're also talking about infrastructure, healthcare infrastructure, psychological help, psychological rehabilitation. A lot of our military and officers will have actually already injured. They don't have legs, they don't have hands, and many other casualties we have, unfortunately. But that's why we also need a very strong healthcare infrastructure with rehabilitation, with many other things around it. So that's why it's a very good room for cooperation between India and Ukraine in such sectors as infrastructure, physical infrastructure. It's roads, railways, airports, bridges, grids, and many other. And then in social infrastructure like healthcare, like education, exchanging of education programs between the Indian and the Ukrainian universities, schools. You have a lot of English-speaking teachers. For us, it's very valuable. Why? Because our kids, if they are coming back from the European or other countries, unfortunately, they missed already 2 years of school years in Ukraine. So they and sometimes kids, small kids, they even forgot Ukrainian language. So they need to study in different languages like French, like English. So it will be valuable if we can get support from the teachers in this area, as well as, for example, we have a lot of good knowledge now, unfortunately, maybe, but good knowledge is in how to preserve critical infrastructure, how to make sustainable energy, how to turn into alternative renewable energy, how to make drones for frontline as well as drones for agriculture, for example. So it's a double use, and many other things like online schooling, teaching. We have a lot of platforms which allow us doing services, public services online, and I see all these areas around infrastructure is an opportunity for collaboration with Indian business, with Indian government, and with building our relations probably from scratch, because still India has a lot of sentiment, Soviet Union sentiment. But we were part of Soviet Union. Ukraine was a very big part of Soviet Union, and our professors, our engineers, our teachers, our doctors, they all worked in India and for India and helped India many years ago. So this is unfortunately not noticed, and
Right.
Russian propaganda sometimes, deleting it. So that's why we have a lot of room and space for cooperation and making not only social impact and recovering Ukraine, but also to make a profitable business, which is, I think, very important for your nation as well as for our nation. So that's my not short, but maybe broad reply.
Right. Ms. Klemenko, if I can ask you, about Ukrainian businesses, how have Ukrainian businesses coped with the current situation, and how can we build synergies between Indian and Ukrainian businesses?
Actually, we are, Russians destroyed approximately between 30 to 40% of our economy. They physically destroyed a lot of companies, a lot of big plants, like metallurgical plants, like chemical plants, like they destroyed ports, port infrastructure, and many other plants and companies. But still, Ukrainian business up and running. So 70% of Ukrainian business working on the non-occupied territories and producing GDP, paying taxes, socially supporting people, civilians as well as military. So we are alive and the business is going on, and we will be happy to discuss, I think, maybe next time particular projects that will be interesting for Indian business as well for Ukrainian. So we have, I think, as a as economists, I think we have a lot of to discuss and to work on. It's an agricultural sector, maritime sector, it's healthcare, it's education, it's reconstruction, it's public electronic services, and many other IT. So we have a lot in common and a lot to cooperate and produce quality services for both our nations as well as export it to other nations.
Right, Ms. Klemenko, if I can for a second play the devil's advocate here, like obviously, given the situation in Ukraine today, it's quite difficult doing business. So, as an advocate of Ukraine, why would you say that Indian businesses should, look at Ukraine or invest in Ukraine today?
Because as I was in business for 17 years, I was a successful businesswoman, and I can tell you, as soon as you will invest, the biggest profit you will get. So if you are coming the last one, you are getting the lowest margin. If you are coming first one, yes, it's a risk, but you're getting the high margin. So that's, I think, my answer. And also because we are developing programs on insuring businesses against war risks. So all investments and businesses will be covered by international insurance, which will allow people to save money. If something, for example, if a Russian missile will arrive to the plant, Indian, Ukrainian plant, which is producing tea, then it will be covered by this insurance. And also we have a very good air defense system in Kyiv and Kyiv Oblast and other cities. So it's more or less safe, so to say, if it may with the Russians to make business. And there is no competition at this point of time. So when the war will be finished and we will get our victory, then the entrance fee will be much higher than it is now.
Right, Ms. Klemenko. So now I would like to ask the audience if anyone has any questions for Ms. Klemenko, or they could save their questions for the end of the discussion, where we'll have some time for a Q&A session. So are there any questions for Ms. Klemenko from the audience? Or then otherwise we'll invite Ms. Klemenko to make her closing remarks and move on. Okay, so Ms. Klemenko, finally, in conclusion, what is your one message to Indians in general?
My message is that we have an opportunity now to reload and to refresh our relations between India and Ukraine, and to start cooperating in every level, from governmental to the business level. And I think it will be beneficial for both nations, and also it will be beneficial in terms of education and healthcare and many other sectors that we have in common and can benefit both of us. So you are very welcome to Ukraine.
Thank you so much, Ms. Klemenko. Thank you for thank you for your time. Right, moving along, our next panelist, again from Ukraine, is Dr. Mridula Ghosh. She is Professor of International Relations, National University of Kiev Mohyla Academy, which is, and she's the board chair of the East European Development Institute. Dr. Ghosh, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can. And am I audible to all of you?
Yes, you are. So, Dr. Ghosh, earlier, we were having a brief chat, and you wanted to talk about the people-to-people connections, between India and Ukraine, and how many of those connections have, in a way, been forgotten. So how can we today revive those connections between India and Ukraine?
Good evening, everybody, all participants. I'm so happy to see that something is rolling and moving forward, despite the distances, despite the problems. I need to tell that today is the 555 days of the war. So it is quite a long time. And also today is the day of knowledge. And being in an academic institution, I'm just coming from the lecture of a very famous Ukrainian professor. He's the head of the Harvard Ukraine Research Institute. I would recommend everyone to listen to him, to read his books. Serhiy Plokhy. He spoke about the fall of the pan-Russian utopia. It was an excellent presentation, excellent speech, and as excellent as his many books. And someday I believe that we will have centers in India which will teach us Ukrainian studies and a lot of the Ukrainian literature, history, political science, philosophy will be taught in Ukraine. Because without knowing Ukraine from the academic point of view, it is extremely risky to just talk about peace, to talk about even our relations from the serious standpoint. I mean, from the framework of, preparing policies, I mean, we need more experts. The expertise that we have in India is good. But unfortunately, as I have found out during my tenure as a researcher, as an interlocutor with different people, that the knowledge is extremely biased, if at all, and it is quite Russocentric, as it is with many other post-Soviet space. I've been writing about this quite a lot, and I think you can, if you try to Google search and find out my columns, that's fine. I'm not going to talk about it now, but today, to talk about the relationship between people, people are in the center, be it at the macro level or at the meso level or at the micro level. We put people in the center, and then relations are not very, relations are more stable despite policy shifts or changes. You would not ignore that people-to-people relation between India and the Western nations are deeper and both extensive and very, very, it's very wide. I mean, even people, you can see the Indian diaspora. The fact itself proves that we are everywhere, everywhere in the world. Ukraine has a small Indian diaspora, but they are active despite the small number. We try to be active, each in our own areas, and we try to do what? I think people are the main drivers to connect the three Ps. As I say, it is, the policy, practice, and of course, our end result is peace today, for which we need people-to-people contacts. Definitely, we need to start from somewhere. And of course, it is like, as we know that it will perform the role of some cushioning of radical policy shifts or any, in rainy weather, it is like an umbrella which helps us move forward and get rid of all the misinterpretations, all the other kinds of things that come along our way and, create certain unnecessary hindrances in enhancing our bilateral relations. Now, there are some practical sides I want to point out. One is the difficulty in reaching out to each other. Today, it is extremely difficult. We know that, very few Indians will risk coming to a war-torn country where, missiles can fly anytime above your head, and you can have these air alerts anytime, and you have to go through a third country. And that third country might not be, and usually it is, they are not really issuing visas for Indians. And this is a serious problem, which I believe the Ukrainian government will be able to take it up with the neighboring countries, because for the Indians, it is more important to reach Ukraine. Because if Indians can see Ukraine with their own eyes, only then attitude towards Ukraine will change. It is also important for Ukrainians to reach India, but I think that is easier. Although there can be, temporary problems related to the traveling of people and the mandate. Of course, I don't mean to say that, I'm not complaining, because visa is a prerogative of the state. We cannot complain about it. If a state doesn't want to issue visas, we cannot say anything because it is not a right. However, we must do everything possible so that people can reach out to each other in a very professional, in a very transparent way. And that is a work that needs to be done both by the policymakers of both countries for the necessary changes they need to see in their bilateral relations. I also, in this connection, want to tell you about the academic side. The academic side is extremely important because businesses will prosper, but knowledge about the countries. There are people knowing a lot about India. We have a lot of people here who know Hindi, who know Sanskrit, and they are even they are talking in Sanskrit. You will be fascinated to know about it. And there is a department teaching Hindi for 30 years. And there are people very proficient in the language. Unfortunately, for other Indian languages, we need to deepen. But how many people in India know Ukrainian language? I'm not sure. Maybe the children of the diaspora, yes. But how many Indians, where are it institutionally Ukrainian is taught? This is something that is a work which is on us. This is our responsibility. We cannot just say that the government should do everything. And of course, the main thing is, in this road to peace, to harmony, to building relations, we need to bust the myths that we have. There are new myths every day coming up. New myths are being generated because propaganda never stops. Propaganda changes. Propaganda is like, a chameleon. It changes colors. So you have to keep up with that, busting all kinds of propaganda, because war is a time when, propaganda is at its highest. And of course, the standards are extremely dubious, and we have to see that Ukraine is discussed in its presence and not behind the back, because this is important. I've written a column about this, which came out just today, thanks to our host of the ceremony, master of the ceremony, Rudra O'Neill. It came out in Times of India blog space about what are the implications for not having Ukraine in G20. Because Ukraine will definitely be discussed. It cannot happen so, but we don't know. I don't want to presume, but discussing Ukraine without Ukraine is something extremely bad, because India cannot allow itself being a post-colonial state. And reclaiming this space that Ukraine deserves, and reclaiming its identity, reclaiming its historic identity, is extremely important, which cannot be done without debunking the myths that are associated with this. Myths like Ukraine is getting the Western weapons, yes, but why? And why, under what circumstances Ukraine is forced to get it? Just because it gave up its most strategic weapons away. Under what guarantees? So this has to be highlighted, I think, by us, explain to people why Ukraine has to beg for weapons when it was one of the producers of weapons, and it is even. And its airspace is attacked every day. Ukraine's contribution to holding up the sky to space technology is very high. Everybody knows the stellar names of people who created the basis of Soviet space science, and most of them are Ukrainian scientists. So I do believe also in this, that we should not reject and refuse what Soviet legacy Ukraine had. We cannot throw the baby with the bathwater. Bad legacy, no, but whatever was there belonged to Ukraine. Ukraine should reclaim it. That's my personal opinion. And at the end, I would like to say that we need a lot of joint projects in the area of education, in the area of culture. I would not even say that, a cinema can do a lot of, it's like a magic, it connects people. Music connects people. There are so many areas that, Ukrainian culture and Indian culture are rich. And I think with the blessing of the newly appointed ambassador and with the energy that the team has, we will be doing a lot of work. But again, we need the civil societies to come together. The people-to-people connection is extremely important, and the gates must be opened. So with this, I would close my few words, and I would be open to questions if you have.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ghosh. Again, just once again to play the devil's advocate. People to people connections are often organic. So, given that for various reasons, uh, relations between Ukraine and India have been tepid over the last few decades. How do you foster people to people connections, or forcefully make people to people connections in today's environment? And looking at the future, how can people to people connections serve to bolster mutual cooperation between India and Ukraine?
Well, if you open the gates, the culture flows out. If you open the window, the fresh air comes in. It is as easy as that. So instead of closing, and instead of not allowing, this is something that we should have fostered. So people to people connection is always there. Had it not been there will be no international relations at all. It is not just government to government. Unfortunately, within the Soviet Union, it was a different approach. It was a very different, the state controlled everything. What I mean is the non-state sector. The non-state sector, one is private sector, that's the business. And I'm going to the third and the fourth sector, which is the civil society organizations. That includes the academia, that includes the social different organizations, the community organizations, and India has millions of them. India has done a lot, and India has a big civil society. Ukraine too has a big civil society. Also, we have the the other component, that is the cooperation between different sectors. That can also happen, like cooperation in the medical sector. That's not necessarily state. Private institutions can come together, both at the institutional level and at the personal level. There can be enabling environment. That's what is needed. And the enabling environment is, of course, the responsibility of the state policy. That is what I wanted to say, that of course we cannot go without the state here. If the state creates that environment, then it is up to us to be responsible carriers of that culture and build the necessary understanding we need.
Right. Personally, this is my personal opinion. I think one of the ways that which Ukraine and India people to people relations can be enhanced is through sports. Ukraine has produced so many great sportsmen. India has so many great sportsmen, and currently the Indian government is focusing on fostering a sports culture in the country, like Halo India and several other schemes are going on.
Yes.
So I think the youth in India and Ukraine can be connected through sports, and I think that is something perhaps the embassy here can look at, and help and facilitate. Yeah, you were saying something.
I would say football. I would say football is something that is extremely inspiring for the Indian youth, although we are not so good at it. I mean, but we have 1.4 billion people, and I think we can have 22 or a few hundred top footballers. We can make it. So Ukraine has a big expertise in football. It has hosted championships, and it is a world-class players. It has coaches. So there's a lot of space that Ukraine can offer in strengthening Indian football. And on the other hand, chess. There is Ukrainian chess masters are very strong,
yes,
and Indian chess masters too. I just can't tell you about these two. So just we can go deep into sports. There are definitely sports diplomacy. It's all the areas of public diplomacy actually is something that is open to us. It's up to us to get it and do it.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ghosh. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your insights, and we look forward to hearing from you in future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. So moving along to our next guest. My mistake. But the next panelist. Our next panelist is Ms. Hanna Hopko. She is a former member of Parliament of Ukraine and chairwoman of the board of the NGO Network for the Protection of National Interests. She's also the co-founder of the International Center for Ukrainian Victory. Interestingly, she was recently in India for a conference, I believe just last week, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So Miss Hopko, can you hear us? Welcome and good evening.
Yes, I can hear you, and it's an honor for me to join for celebration of Ukraine independence together with Indian friends. So I just came from the New Delhi to Kiev, and I'm very thankful for hospitality and the high-level meetings we had with your Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Energy, the advisor of the Prime Minister, and it was important visit to Delhi. Of course, all conversations on we had on Global South, multipolarity, G20, and India's global strategy. Also, it was important to raise the issue of how to seek sustainable peace and what needed to help Ukraine to win faster and actually to defeat the enemy, the aggressor state at the territory of Ukraine. And of course, it was really important to discuss with your Minister of Foreign Affairs, and we invited your minister and higher level representatives of Indian government to Ukraine. I think it would be important to have such discussions in Kiev. And actually, I invited your minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, to visit Kiev, because India's role in securing sustainable peace and guarantee the punishment of Russia as an aggressor state is also so important. Because in India, New Delhi, I saw a lot of posters. One Earth, one family, one future. It's really important that our one planet requires collective and consolidated approach to help Ukraine to restore territorial integrity and sovereignty, and actually to help the world to restore a global rules-based order and to prevent new wars, especially in Indo-Pacific region. So it was my second visit to India. In 2009, I visited Mumbai for international conference talking about public health issues. And now I would like to say that I do believe that there is a room for more Indian engagement in seeking solutions to guarantee victory in Ukraine faster. And actually, we discussed with your Minister of Foreign Affairs why Ukraine is not present at G20. And still, the argument that G20 is about economic growth, it's not UN Security Council. I think it's really important when we discussed a lot in New Delhi about three interconnected to Russian aggression crises, like global weaponization of food, also fuel and fertilizers. So Russian aggression against Ukraine artificially created weaponization of food, which actually is weaponization of hunger. And we in Ukraine are seeking more international support for demilitarization of the Black Sea, because we don't want millions of people in global south countries in Africa, Asia, suffer from hunger. This is why we want to export our grain, our corn, and feed the world, because Ukraine is the world now as a bread basket, not just Europe, but also bread basket for the world. So this is why I think it's really important also to explain that Ukraine also seek justice, and it's important to bring to justice all those responsible for the crime of Russian aggression against Ukraine, and because this is the prerequisite for security and safety of humanity. And we call to join a special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine, which will fill the jurisdictional gap of the ICC. And also at the beginning of our meeting today, there were some videos demonstrating Russian ecocide against Ukraine. And it's really important to understand that already Russia damaged a huge cause against Ukrainian environment. Russia's aggression against Ukraine has already caused $54 billion in environment damage and 495,000 hectares, including national parks, biosphere reserves, remains under Russian occupation. So I think it's really important when we are talking about food security, energy security, and also environment protection, to talk about how to reach sustainable peace in Ukraine and what is the role of India. Because after 8 years of peaceful settlement, unfortunately, we ended up with Russia committing genocide against us. So sustainable peace without defeat of Russia and actually punishment, tribunal, and reparation, what happened with Nazi Germany after the World War II, is so important. And also, I'm very thankful to India, as our ambassador already mentioned, for helping us with demining and interest in recovery and economic cooperation. But I also answered on your previous question, how people-to-people educational institutions, how we can increase our cooperation and strengthen our partnership. Our ambassador Polishchuk, as former deputy minister of defense, he should also mention Delta system, which is well known at different countries and NATO as Delta system as a situational awareness and battlefield management situation, which we invented in Ukraine during the war. So I think Ukraine is contributing to global peace, defending actually the world from authoritarian regimes. And since I already, after the full-scale war, visited Taiwan, visited South Korea, Japan, so I know the threats in Indo-Pacific region. And for us, it's really important by restoring peace in Ukraine and territorial integrity and sovereignty to provide solutions and actually to prevent a new threats which might be posed from authoritarian club or authoritarian countries like China, Iran, and other authoritarian regimes, which are very dangerous for all of us, for our Earth, for our planet, and for humanity. Because I think the key is here to mention that Russian ongoing aggression against us is an attack on humanity. So I'll stop here. And this is why I do believe that India's role in securing sustainable peace, not ceasefire, but peace, real peace through victory, will be more bigger. And one day we will celebrate together common victory of Ukraine as victory of democracy, as victory of our better future and prevention of new wars in our planet.
Right, Ms. Hopko. Thank you for that. Let me ask you, since you were in India recently, what is the common Ukrainian perspective on India today? Because you get a lot of reports and a lot of content on social media, which many times could even be manipulated. But what is the common Ukrainian thinking or feeling about India today?
So I like India's ambitions to be part of global governance, to join UN Security Council in the future, and after moon landing program, to consider India in the future different coalitions, different formats. And I think India, we also need to talk more about our efforts to counter Russian propaganda. Because even with the weaponization of food, still we need to explain more about Ukraine's role in global food supply, because it seems like Russian propaganda trying to discredit Ukraine's contribution and actually to kill us as a competitor delivering food. And also with India, we have a lot of common things, because Russian war against Ukraine is a colonial war. So this is why victory is important. But also, I met on my way to Delhi one Indian student who was traveling from Munich, and we discussed about airspace engineering, and he mentioned some Ukrainian engineers. So this was really important, how your students with deeply knowledge about Ukraine contribution to the space and air industry technologies. So I think it's about future. So this is why youth program is so important, and we need to create more TV programs about situation in Ukraine, and actually to prepare the ground for future cooperation from youth, economy, recovery, new technologies. And you know that Ukraine is a very rich country, having critical raw materials like lithium. This is the materials needed for new critical technologies. But the strategic value of Ukraine is our people. So having human capital, smart and high educated people, having critical raw materials, Ukraine will contribute to global fight, because there is a fight between democracies and autocracies who will have access to critical raw materials and technologies. So this is the knowledge-based economies, and I think we have to be together, fighting and winning together.
Right. Thank you so much, Ms. Hopko. Thank you for your insights, and thank you for joining us here today. Thank you. Thank you very much. And finally, our last panelist today from Ukraine, a good friend of mine, Ms. Ola Voroshbits, who is the deputy editor-in-chief of the Ukrainisky Tizdin. She is an affiliated expert of the Foreign Policy Council of Ukrainian Prism. Ola, welcome. Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. And do you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Hello.
So Ola,
Yes.
again, we were talking earlier, you have an interesting story about India and Ukraine revolving around one of your favorite novels. So could you just tell us about that?
Yes. So good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for inviting me to this incredible gathering. And so my speech will be probably on some just other level, but also about India-Ukraine relations. So when I was thinking about our today's event, motivation and optimism, sharing experiences, I reminded myself about my one of my most favorite, probably school time novels, and it's a very important for Ukrainian literature novel, Sobor, or The Cathedral by Oles Honchar. And for me as a teenager, this was an exciting reading because it showed different ethical dilemmas, different characters, but it also has very interesting India scene in it. So the main protagonist there, Mykola, he was a young student who loved nature and had great respect towards everything, towards the past, towards nature. But he had his older brother, Ivan, and in the village where they lived, Ivan was called Ivan from India. And this was because Ivan worked at the metallurgy plant in Ukraine, and he together in a group with other Ukrainian engineers went to Bhilai steel plant and helped to develop the steel plant there. There he got acquainted and had made good friends with an Indian engineer called Rangar, and this novel shows how they were happy when they saw the first metal, which was produced by the blast furnace constructed by Ukrainian engineers. But besides friendship with Indian fellows, Indian engineers, Ivan brings back with him many impressions. Firstly, how Indians respect their old temples. Secondly, how they help each other and help him when he got lost. Thirdly, he says that he and his neighbors in the village should respect their cathedral as much as Indians respect their sacred places. So today we were speaking about like Soviet legacy, which we should remind ourselves, and this is one part of it, because Ukrainian engineers took part in construction and developing one of the biggest steel plants in India, Bhilai steel plant. And this year, I even read real memories by Indians whose parents got acquainted and made friends with Ukrainians during the construction and then developing the Bhilai steel plant. But the other reason why I mentioned this novel today is because of mutual support. So I live in Lviv, it's a western part of Ukraine, and here, as in other also big cities, we have many Indian students. In Lviv, mainly they study medicine, and near our medical university, we have a very small Indian restaurant, which firstly was run by the Indian family, mostly for Indian students, but then now it is loved by all those who live in the city or come to the city. And while coming and passing by near that restaurant, and it was working during the war, I understood that this Indian business works in Ukraine during the wartime. This is how these people show support to us as well, and they show their resilience as well as Ukrainians. So I think this mutual support is very important, and this is what I hope we will develop soon with more Indian businesses coming here and investing in reconstruction of Ukraine, and also Ukrainian businesses which will go to India. I know that also, speaking about this small part of Ukraine, I mean western part, I know one IT company called Intellius, which started their new office in Pune just recently. So with this mutual support, with people-to-people contacts, I hope we will show how our respective countries. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ola. Ola, if I may ask you, looking to the future, how can we, take India-Ukraine relations to a desired level, given that there has been years of neglect in building people-to-people relations, having appropriate government-to-government relations. How can we, take things forward?
My position in everything what I do is just to do. So, I mean, this is very straightforward, but we just need to do. We need to go. I mean, Ukrainians need to go to India and share our experiences, go to the universities, exchange opinions with experts in India and with expert community. Indians have to come to Ukraine. Both Kyiv or Western Ukraine is relatively safe. I live here all the time during the war. Opinions, and also what I think we have to revive what we have, because some of things. So we have them, but we just need to remind ourselves. This is as with this novel, like we read it. Every school girl or schoolboy reads it at school, but I just needed this topic of the conference to remind myself this novel.
Right, but also, Ola, let me ask you that, given the current, geopolitical situation, there is a perspective that perhaps, building relations with Ukraine, whether it's government-to-government relations or business-to-business relations or people-to-people relations, is a zero-sum game. that you are, building relations with this country at the cost of something else. So how do you kind of break through that barrier? That maybe it's just a mental barrier, but like, how do you break through or overcome that barrier, and not see India-Ukraine relations in terms of a zero-sum game, but a win-win situation for everyone?
My position is not how we can not to see that a zero-sum game is to find levels where we can cooperate and just cooperate there, and those levels and those every country has maybe some between different countries. Yes, in their mutual relations, there are issues which are difficult. So, and we are working on them. Maybe slowlier than on the others, but there are those parts or those relations where we can develop, and they were mentioned today as space research, or in economy, or investing in businesses here. So you can do that, or cooperation on people-to-people levels, on cooperation between academia. So we can do that without looking on those issues which are at this moment, which are at the moment difficult. So this is what I think.
Right. Thank you so much, Ola. Thank you for being with us here today. Thank you for your insights, and we hope to hear from you soon. Right. So I think with that, we cover all the panelists, and I would like to quickly mention that we are going to have a very important signing right now. The WCC Business and Industry Association and the Indo-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce and Industry are going to sign a very important memorandum of understanding, which we hope will further India-Ukraine cooperation.
Before they sign, Rudro, can I just give a brief on this?
Sure.
MOU.
Yes.
As all the panelists have said, basically the cooperation is not only between the sports and the culture and tourism, but at the same time, these two organizations are joining hands in the presence of the Honorable Ambassador, that we will be having a delegation also to Ukraine. And that is going to be a business delegation. My friend Sebastian is here from Poland, and we would be needing his help, that we would be going through Warsaw. So this is a good breakthrough. Thank you very much. So this is going to be a big breakthrough. I think both these organizations are committed to each other. Yeah, you may like to share, President. Both the presidents would like to share and have a handshake with both of you. Yeah, and exchange the file. So that we put it in our WTC organization as a frame. Yeah, you can share this. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for both the presidents. Mr. Agarwal has already spoken about it. Now I would request Mr. Army, the president of Indo-Ukraine Chamber, to say a few words.
Excellencies, honorable speakers on panel, and distinguished guests, I would take this opportunity to welcome His Excellency Dr. Alexander Polishchuk and give our regards and best wishes for his tenure. We are also positive that under your guidance, Indo-Ukraine relation will touch an unprecedented height and in the near future. My salute to the one brave, courageous, and defiant person without whom this event might not be possible. His Excellency, the President of Ukraine, Mr. Volodymyr Zelensky. His iconic statement of defiance and grit, "The fight is here, I need ammunition, not a right," was catapulted him to history as one of the greatest war leaders of all time. He showed what it needs to be a David in front of a Goliath. And we all know how that ends. Instead of taking the easy path out, President Zelensky showed indomitable spirit, courage, and bravery in spite of everyone getting ready for Ukraine to fall. He led from the front, in not fearing the assassin squad sent to eliminate him and his family. Under his leadership, Ukraine forged a solidified and national identity, came out of the shadow of the Russian Mir, and now proudly is marching towards EU and NATO integration. To quote Kobzar, keep fighting, you are here to win. God helps you in your fight. For fame and freedom, march with you, and right is on your side. Behind every successful man, there is also a strong woman. A salute also to the First Lady, Mrs. Olena Zelenska, for the path-breaking social and medical work she is doing through her foundation. The Olena Zelenska Foundation is probably the first in the world that is working as a holistic healing organization treating patients for all kinds of trauma, from physical to mental. Trauma is what connected me to Ukraine. I had a brain stroke in April 2018 that due to a physical trauma to my carotid artery. I went into coma for 2 days. I was fully paralyzed on the right side of the body, plus I also lost my speech. My doctors gave me 40 to 50% chance of recovery. But thanks to miracle combined with my wife's extraordinary care, I recovered, and in standing and speaking in front of you. And once I recovered, the first country I visited was Ukraine in March 2021. To give you an idea of my blessing in numbers, out of 8.1 billion people on earth, only 0.17% will have a brain stroke, severe brain trauma. And just 5% of those traumatized person will recover 95% to function normally in a life. So I'm hugely blessed by God. Ukraine as a country is suffering a lot of trauma due to war. Trauma changes you permanently. You can either choose to be kind, humble, generous, and giver, or you can be bitter, cruel, nasty, and a taker. And what I find really inspiring is both the president and the first lady are leading by example to gently make the country's people kinder and a better society to integrate with the democratic value of Europe. Kudos to them both. And kudos to the Ukrainian people. They inspire and motivate me to improve every moment in my life. Unfortunately, today Ukraine is facing a huge shortage of human blood due to such high numbers of amputations and surgeries. I feel Indian by heart, Ukrainian by soul, and plan to travel every month and hereby pledge to donate whole blood every 120 days and blood plasma every month in my visit to Ukraine. I hope it will be in time to help save precious lives of Ukrainian soldiers and traumatically injured citizens. Now coming to the business side of things. Indo-Ukraine bilateral business pre-war amounted to US $3.75 billion. India has 63 million and small and medium enterprises. Ukraine has around 200,000. So we aim to help to the interested Indian companies to set up their operations in Ukraine and vice versa trade between the two countries. Agro product is 20% of Ukraine's total export to India. It is called the bread basket of Europe. For every 100 liters of sunflower oil imported into India, 78 liters was imported from Ukraine. So when you buy the next bottle, which is Adani, you should know that it is imported from Ukraine. There are immense opportunities for Indian companies in agro processing and storage. The government of Ukraine is giving huge tax benefits and tax holidays in different sectors of the economy. A KSC report says post-war, Ukraine is going to face a huge shortage of skilled labor for reconstruction and allied services. And that is one category which India has ample to share. We are going to open an office in Kyiv to support chamber members in all their business endeavors. We also plan to promote Ukrainian culture and language in India in collaboration with the Ukrainian diaspora and under the guidance of the Ukrainian embassy. Our first MOU of cooperation with WTC will help us make our message to our largest audience, and we plan to do more MOU in the future. Thank you, sir. Ukraine is about to experience a gold rush, unprecedented in the post-World War II era. The potential of Ukraine is unimaginable. IUCCI and I will leave no stone unturned to achieve Ukraine its maximum potential, and then some more. My special gratitude to my dear friend, the Honorable CDA, Mr. Ivan Konovalov, without whom the formation of IUCCI was not possible. Without much ado, I would conclude because the dinner is ready, and with some more words of Kobzar. And in the great new family, the family of the free, with softly spoken kindly words, remember also me. Jai Hind, Slava Ukraini.
Thank you, President. Thank you very much for your inspiring speech. And as you have said, that every successful organization, every successful country, every successful man, there is a woman behind. And as our President, Mr. Pradeep Agrawal, has already given a commitment that we at World Trade Connect would ensure that each and every city, each and every country is connected, not only for trade, but for culture, collaboration, and of course, the connectivity. So in this line, we have a very inspiring Ukrainian lady with us. Her name is Miss Natalia Filatova, and she's based in Spain. And she's living in Spain for the last 20 years. I know her for the last 15 years. And on the recommendation of Mr. Pradeep Agrawal, Mr. President of WTC has giving a letter of appointment that this Ukrainian lady would be based in Madrid, and she will be taking care of Spain, India, of course, Ukraine Business Connect. May I request President to kindly give this appointment letter to this Ukrainian lady, and she will also be going to speak and giving her commitment. May I request Natalia to kindly come forward. Please go first. Yeah. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. May I request to Natalia to kindly say a few words.
Thank you. Nice good evening. Hello, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, on this joyous occasion of Ukrainian National Day, I stand before you with my heart full of gratitude and excitement. It is an immense honor for me to accept this position of chapter chair of Spain in World Trade Connect. As a proud Ukrainian woman, I am committed to fostering a strong and healthy connection that will bridge gap between Spain, India, and Ukraine. I extend my sincere thanks for all of my friends from India, Ukraine, and Spain who have supported me this journey. Your encouragement and faith in me means the world. I also want to express my special appreciation to Dr. Yogesh for recommending my name to be VNWTC President, Mr. Pradeep. Your trust in my capabilities is deeply humbling. Thank you. I assure all of you that I will put my best foot forward to create a meaningful platform within this World Trade Connect in Spain. Through open dialogue, collaboration, and innovation, I am determined and facilitate a people-to-people to connect that will not only enhance economic ties, but also foster culture, understanding, and friendship. As we celebrate Ukrainian National Day, let us also remember that shared values that bind us together. Let us strive to progress, cooperation, and brighter future. And what I want to tell, Slava Ukraine! And слава нашим героям, і дякую всім, хто тут, і дякую нашій країні, що ми виборемо нашу свободу. І я дуже впевнена, що дуже незабаром ми переможемо. І це буде так, тому що агресія повинна бути припинена. Дякую всім. Thanks for everybody. Thank you, everybody. Oh my God. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Now I would request Rudra, if you can kindly give the closing remarks of today's interface. I'm sure number of people have got number of questions because this Q&A could not happen because of the paucity of time. So if you can give the closing remarks of yours on behalf of WTC, on behalf of my president, I just want to mention also that without the support of the Ukrainian embassy, this program was not possible. Of course, Ivan and my friend Wally, they are the two people across, along with the army, the president of Indo-Ukrainian Chamber, and the support we have received from the New Age BV, Bood Ammo, Holidays India Private Limited, the D Pioneer India Private Limited. Of course, the Superior Group is already here. The entire group is sitting over here. The D Pioneer lady is already here, Mrs. Bharadwaj. If you can kindly share, just raise your hand. So all the support is there. So I am requesting now, Rudra, a big round of applause for these supporters, those who have come in support and supported this program. Final remarks from you, sir.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Srivastav. My final remarks would be that, we have ignored India-Ukraine relations for a long time, but not anymore. I think this is an opportune moment to increase our cooperation and partnership. And so all I would say is onwards and upwards, Slava Ukraini. Thank you. Thank you so much. I invite everyone to come for dinner.
Please join us for the dinner. But before that, may I request the organizers to kindly clear that space. Please clear that space and we will have the dinner. Requesting each and everybody to have dinner with us. May I request the organizers, please come. Yeah. And Natalia, if you can come for the photo.